Hey everybody, I'm Cody Walker with the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's Forest Elwood Crowley's Ridge Nature Center here in Jonesboro, Arkansas. But today we're not in Jonesboro. We're actually in another section of Northeast Arkansas. And today I'm here with Regional Educator Chuck Long, and he takes care of this part of the state for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission's Education Division. And today, Chuck, we're out in the middle of a cornfield, man.
Yep.
What have you got us out here for?
We're out doing a little bit of scouting for dove season. You know, dove season typically in Arkansas comes in the first weekend of September, and we're just out doing a little bit of scouting, trying to figure out a place to hunt.
And I think it's a pretty good spot. We've already seen a few doves. Corn's still pretty tall, but there's quite a few birds flying around. So what will this field look like maybe here in another few weeks? What are you expecting to see? Why are we here at this location right here?
You know, we're kind of, today we're just driving around kind of looking at areas, places to hunt. And you know, I like to hunt on up in the season. So this corn right here, as you can see, it's still pretty green.
Yeah.
And so we're probably looking at another week or two before it's going to be harvested. So this is probably not something I'm thinking about for opening day. I'm thinking about this for, you know, two weeks or so into the season. But as we drive around, you know, we kind of take note of what we see. Now, one thing you can look for, and we've already noticed it driving around, if you're driving around a field that's not been cut yet, just watch, and we've seen doves flying around this field, and you know, a lot of times when a dove gets in a field like this, of course they're going to eat the corn,
right?
But you see all this grass, and so this grass is going to start shedding some of that seed, and those doves, they like to get underneath that corn where it's a little bit cool, especially when the heat of the day, and they'll go and start using this field. Now you can't hunt it until it's harvested, but that gives me an idea of where to hunt in the future.
Yeah. So this is just a piece of the puzzle, like you were
just
saying.
Just a piece of the puzzle.
You're just putting all these pieces together, and really this goes for, you know, any kind of hunting or fishing trip. I mean, if you want to be successful at it, you know, go out there and scout, look around, see what it looks like.
As you start putting the puzzle together of dove hunting, you're looking at main pieces there. You're looking at a roost site. You know, where's the dove going to roost? And in Arkansas, it's typically, I found them in all kinds of places. A lot of times they're in trees. But I've also found them in cotton fields. I found them in old grass fields. I found them on bare dirt. But if I know where that roost is, I know which way those doves are going to come to this corn from, and so I can hunt this by myself. And get in between the roost and where the doves are, you know, going in this corn. The next thing we're going to go look for just a loafing. I call it a loafing area, and that's going to be probably a piece of layout ground where it's been disced up, where there's no cover there really other than maybe some grass, but that's where those doves are going to sit during the middle of the day, stay away from predators. They're also going to sit out there. They like to pick up, in this part of Arkansas, there's a lot of sand, and kind of they like to get that sand, put it in their craw, and that's what grinds up their food. There might even be some water there close. So,
and what is a layout field for people that don't understand what that is?
A layout field will be just a field where a farmer has gone in, it's not been planted this year, and they probably dished it up, or they may have left it, you know, depending on the situation. So that's what we're going to look for, and that would be in my loafing area. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to try to show you a water, somewhere to hunt on water. And I really like water because unlike this 80-acre cornfield, that water is typically going to be a spot the size of a pickup or maybe a small pond. If you're in the Ozarks, if you're along the Arkansas River, it might be a sandbar, but it's going to be a smaller area. And typically, you know, I'll have, you know, 4, 5, 6 people hunt with me on the first weekend, but after that, a lot of times it's myself. So you take a water area, something like that, and that concentrates where those doves are going to go. And that allows me to be more successful there. And then we may just look around and just try to find a transition area, kind of where doves are flying over as well. So, and again, this is just part of the puzzle. Again, this corn is not going to be cut, but it tells me, it gives me a starting point that there's doves in this area when we drove down here.
And I'll tell you another important thing about what we're doing today, and you'd mentioned it earlier on. You don't have as much of an issue with it because I think you know everybody and their cousin up here in this part of the state, but and so you know who to call. But you know, we're doing this early enough that we're able to find locations and driving these dirt roads, and you find a spot that holds a lot of doves. But if you don't know that person, it gives you time to figure out who the landowner is and get written permission. We always you know, express that. I mean, today we're doing all this on private property, so if you're going to hunt an area, you need to get permission from that landowner before you do it.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing, and you want to do that early. Now, and I know who farms this. I'll send him a text. I'll say, hey, you know, I'd like to hunt your field when I'm gonna, you know, when I think it might be good to hunt it, I'm going to have, 5 people with me. Yeah. And I'll let him know. And typically these guys, if I've hunted on them before, they're typically like, yeah, just go ahead, help yourself. Yeah. But still, I like to have that I like him to know I'm here. Right. I like them to know, I told you I want to drive my truck when we're out because I want them to know my vehicle. Yeah. I want them to know who I am, and I want them to know that I'm going to take care of their property. So, man, that's, dove hunting in Arkansas, we got plenty of public places to deer hunt, squirrel hunt, duck hunt, but dove hunting is and in a lot of ways, it's on private ground. But if you'll go out and ask, go talk to people. Now, do that early. You don't want to see this guy out here on his combine cutting his corn and, drag him off his combine.
Run him down out in the middle of the field. Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. But try to try to figure out who it is. Try to give him a call, catch him at the coffee shop, introduce yourself, let yourself be known to him, and most people are pretty good about giving you permission if you'll ask in a nice way. Yeah. A lot of people think of dove hunting. You get up first morning, you go out, you sit in the field with 6 or 8 of your buddies, and that's dove season. Yeah. But man, it's so much fun on up in the year, and that's kind of what we're going to show people today.
Well, that all sounds good to me. I think we've got the mosquitoes baited into this one spot. So
and bring off. There'll be mosquitoes out here.
So y'all hang with us. We're going to go around and look at some of those spots that Chuck mentioned, and we'll kind of show you what he's thinking about as he's out here driving around and looking for doves for opening weekend and later on during dove season. So come along with us. What's going on here with this field? I mean, you said this is one of your favorite pieces of ground. It's a layout field. What do you like about it?
This is just some layout ground. Now here, farmers not come back and redist it, but and we'll try to get some pictures of the ground. There's a lot of seed as any plant matures. It starts dropping seed because that's how it propagates itself. Yeah. So some of these plants here, some of the grasses have started to mature, so they're dropping seeds already. And if any of these where somebody runs over, it's going to get dislodged. That makes a perfect place for a dove to feed. And plus, it's pretty sandy. So there's some grit in here, and doves like that. Yeah. And it's kind of a broken habitat, and for any animal, a broken habitat's typically better than just one type of solid habitat. You got some grass, and you got some weeds, you got some open ground. Plus, there's a little bit of water up here too. Yeah. So a little bit of everything you need here.
Yeah. So it does have all the items that you're looking for to make for a successful dove field. And it looks successful. I think. Yeah. I mean, if this was the day before the season, and, this would be as good a spot as any to start hunting because they hadn't started cutting a lot of this corn and all the agriculture around here. And there's doves here. I mean, we know they're here. Yeah. All right. So when we pull up to a field like this, I mean, obviously this is a monster field. Yeah, it's huge. So if it's not opening weekend where you're out taking, I know you typically take a lot of youth and a lot of folks out hunting and try and carry on the tradition, and you try and do that opening weekend. But later in the season, you like to go by yourself a lot, or you'll invite 1 or 2 people. This is a huge field for just one person. So when you come to this setup and there's doves here, I mean, what are you looking for as far as where you want to set your stool, where you want to hide, brush in a little blind? I mean, what are your thoughts going into a hunt on the field of this size?
Something like this, it's pretty intimidating to think about trying to hunt it with 1 or 2 or even 5 people. You think we'll never get them stirred up. So what I do, if I find a place like this, I pull up here. And I'll even hunt this stuff middle of the day. A lot of people think it's early or late. Something like this, I even like the middle of the day. I'm going to pull up here and I'm going to watch. So I'm going to watch where are the doves going in and out of this field. And doves are going to follow each other. Even in 100 acres here, there's going to be certain spots where doves go in and out. It might be where there's a tree line, a break in a tree line. It might be coming over some highline wires. It might be a variety of things. Where the doves going to feed, where they going to roost. So you got to just put that all together. Yeah. And then when I get out here, I'm going to watch for a little bit. I'm going to go sit down. And, man, this is low cover. So I really can't just walk out here and set my bucket down and just sit down on top of it. I'm going to have to get down. I like to stay no higher than the highest cover in the field. Yeah. So I'll probably take my vest off, lay it on the ground here, and kneel down on it, and then when doves start coming close, that's when I'll, and wait till they get real close to shoot. And that's just a few tips for hunting something like this. You got to be still, you got to be as unseen as possible, and you got to figure out that flight path. And here also another good hunting trick is the robo dove. Yeah. That's going to really help. And I like to carry for a field like this. I carry an extra long pole, so I've got a pole that'll be almost head high.
Yeah.
So that
good
dove
visibility
can get good visibility. Yeah. So a dove can definitely see
and I guess that, you know, we're talking about gear. Obviously, you don't want to carry everything but the kitchen sink.
Yep.
If you're going to be the only man hunting, because you're going to have to adapt. You may have to move 2 or 3 or 4 times to fill a limit, or just to figure out where the flight path is. I know the other day when we were out here filming, I asked you the same thing, and you said, well, let's just look at this field. Let's just watch it for a minute.
Yep.
And we turned around, and we weren't filming, but we were just watching the field, and you said, all right, there's one. And sure enough, there was one go through, and we just kept watching that spot. And then there was 2, another one, 4, another one, and they were all flying that same little path.
Right.
And you said, that's the spot. That's where you want to start.
And so, there may be does go in other parts of the field, but if you'll find a spot, and you can combine where you can hide, you know, make sure you're off the road the proper distance, and figure out kind of where they're going and coming. And the wind may have an impact. You know, you want the doves coming into the wind toward you as much as possible. So there's just a lot of factors there. So think about that when you start looking at the field like this. And again, this is intimidating. I mean, it's a long ways the other side of this field. It's a half mile across there.
Yeah.
So it'd be tough to hunt in a way, but I like to break it down and just make it where, all right, where's the dove likely to fly?
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I like this spot. I'll claim it for
Okay.
opening weekend.
Okay.
Let's go find another spot. And you saw this from way off the road,
right.
But you said there's something here I want to go look at, and we're standing in it. So what are we looking at?
Yeah, you know, we were driving down the road up here, and I just saw some bright green grass out here, which tells me there's some water that's ran out here.
Yeah.
And you might be able to hear it on the video, the power unit's running in the background.
Yeah.
And so that tells me there's a little bit of water here. When you're hunting water for doves, you don't necessarily even have to have very much standing water, just a little bit, just a very little bit. And I think if we went on down, further down the field, we're going to get into just a little bit of water into some tractor ruts, and that's going to tell me there's doves here. You know, we walked up and there's some kildees. That's probably one of the best signs. That's going to tell you there could be doves there, and we also jumped a couple of doves here. Yeah. And this is not a big spot. It's not a spot you're going to come sit and kill a bunch of doves, but you come here 1 or 2 people and hunt this water hole and have you a nice little hunt. Yeah. And that's what I look for. Again, we're on private property here, so you'd have to get permission. But another thing about hunting water, I mean, you can apply this same thing to up in the Ozarks in the National Forest. Maybe on your deer lease, you got a small pond. Maybe along the river, there's a place. And I like water. I like little spots like this because this concentrates the birds. Yeah. Every bird that you know, there's a cornfield behind us, and that's a big field. But every bird that might be in this area is probably at some point during the day going to come to this water.
Yeah. And it was kind of cool because I mean, to me, I mean, you've hunted up here for a long time, and you know what to look for. But to me, as we were driving by, I mean, this is what 250 yards, 300 yards off the road. Yeah. And to me, it was just it was just part of a field. I mean, it's just a green spot in a field, and it may be hard to tell from this video. Maybe we can get some good photos and show everybody. But I mean, this stood out like a beacon. Once you described it, once you said, look at the color of this green compared to everything else around you. Look how neon green this is. Well, okay, I see what you're looking for now. I mean, it really stood out to you as a spot.
And that just tells me there's water here. Yeah. This would be a fairly easy place to hunt. You know, one thing we hadn't talked about yet, but can I find the birds? My responsibility when I shoot that dove is to go find it. And I shouldn't be shooting birds where I can't find them. So, you know, this is going to be a pretty easy place to find them. So that takes it up a notch to making sure, you know, where you hunt. You know, number 1, permission. Number 2, are there doves there? Number 3, can I find the birds? Yeah, a couple of tips on that. Number 1, when you shoot a bird, walk right to where you think it fell. Yeah. And another one, you know, if you shoot it, and even in this stuff, it might be hard to find, even in this lower grass. What I do, I just take my hat off and I'll put it on a bush limb or lay it on the ground, and I'll walk right to where I think that bird fell. If I don't see it immediately, take my hat off, lay it down, and then I know about where that bird should be, and I can start looking in that area.
Well, those are some great tips, and probably a pretty good spot. I'm going to take your word for it. I've been with you for a few times. You say this is good, I'll take your word for it, but let's go find another one.
All right, sounds good.
Mr. Chuck, we're here at another location that you said you wanted to point something out at. Now, you said this is probably not an area that you would hunt, but there were some kind of some characteristics of the trees around the edge of this field that you wanted to kind of speak to for a minute. So what's interesting about these trees?
You know, and again, this is not somewhere I'm going to hunt. This is a rice field. Now, there are times I've hunted in rice fields. Of course, it's a long way from harvest.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, with corn being so tall, this is one of the few we could see a good tree line background, so that's why we stopped here. So, you know, if you look here behind us, you see a tree line. And that's another key thing. If I'm pulling up to a big field like this, I'm looking at the tree line behind it or around the field, and that's going to tell me where to start.
Yeah.
Because doves typically fly through gaps. You know, you look over there, there's several lower gaps in this tree line behind us, and if this were a cut cornfield, I'd set up in those gaps. Yeah. And set up about 100 yards inside the gap in the cornfield. That way when a dove comes through it, you can see him coming. And you know, it's just a little tip that I've learned over the years. And there's also a dead tree over here, and doves. You know, we just saw a dead tree up a while ago on the road, and there were doves all in it. Yeah. And doves are attracted to dead trees, gaps in tree lines, different places like that. And that's just when you're looking at a field, again, sometimes it's hard to narrow down where to sit, and that's just a good opportunity to kind of figure out, hey, you know, maybe I should start here and then watch. And they might be going through another gap or a different place and move accordingly.
Yeah. Talking about safety when you got multiple people on a field, such as this one, if you were going to hunt it, if it was corn or layout or something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, there's just one or two gaps. I mean, how would you spread out in a field? I mean, would you spread out 80 yards, 200 yards? What's your preference for safety?
My safety distance on dove hunting is about 75 to 100 yards.
Yeah.
You know, you're shooting a shotgun, and now the downside of that sometimes is this. Sometimes you may not know the people in the field with you. Yeah. The farmer may give permission to 2 or 3 different groups.
Yeah.
And if that's the case and I get there, I'm going to tend to try to get my group together, and we're going to hunt in one location, and we're going to stay fairly, you know, 60, 70 yards apart. You know, there's always the rule, you know, you don't shoot anything less than about a 45-degree angle and different stuff like that. So, and what this tree line does, that is going to get those doves up higher when they come in this field. So that kind of automatically puts that dove up in the safe shooting area.
Yeah. Versus,
you know, if they were just coming across open ground, they're going to be real low. So yeah, little factors like that go a long ways in a safe hunt. Just making sure you're spaced apart, 75 yards or so. And we've had cases where we've had to pair up. That's another option. You know, if you take 6 or 8 guys and there's only 3 or 4 places to hunt, you know, you can pair up. Yeah. And what that does, that lets a couple of people watch the birds that fall. Maybe you got a couple of dogs, you can pair up the dogs, and a dog guy with a non-dog guy or something like that. Yeah. And that just increases your safety.
Yeah, and I've done that before hunting. I mean, just side by side with somebody.
Yeah.
And if you and I are the 2 hunters hunting side by side, I mean, I'm going to shoot directly out in front and to my left, and you're going to shoot directly out in front and to your right, and that way we're not crossing paths and everybody's. And discuss these things before the hunt even starts. That way you're not having arguments out in the field, and everybody's clear on the directions, and it'll make for a more enjoyable and a safer hunt. Well, that's a good tip. Let's mosey on down the road and see what
Let's go.
All right, Mr. Chuck. So you've taken us around today, all over. It feels like all over Northeast Arkansas.
Yeah, we have been.
And you've shown us kind of what you look for as far as scouting for doves in the early season. And we hadn't seen a single field cut yet.
No.
I think they're getting real close, but you've shown us, you know, look for watering sources, look for gaps in the trees for setting up. You know, we talked a little bit about agri-fields and discussed, you know, scouting for birds on wires and things of that nature. So I think, you know, if I was somebody just coming into this, you've put me on the right path. I mean, I learned quite a bit today, and I've been with you multiple times, and I feel like I'm always still learning. You never know too much about the one sport you're doing. So I do appreciate you running us around today. But is there anything else you'd like to add that might help some of our viewers out a little bit?
Again, we're talking hunting private ground, and that's just up here where we're at, and in a lot of other parts of the state. That's probably what you're going to be hunting. Just, I can't stress enough, get permission. Make sure you know whose land it is. You can get several phone apps that'll tell you that, and you know, there's probably paper maps still out there for most of the counties. And number one, make sure you get permission. I just can't stress that enough. And I like to stress that because, you know, for me as a hunter, and you know, everybody ought to think of it this way. We are, by me getting permission, I'm probably giving somebody else the opportunity to hunt that as well, because they know hunters are going to ask. So, you know, pick up your trash, after you go hunt, pick up your bottles or cans or hulls if you can find them. You know, pick up after yourself. And then as far as the hunt goes, just learn watch the doves, learn what they're doing, spend some time out there. And you may have to do a lot of sitting before you actually do any shooting. So spend some time out there is a key thing. You know, before season, go ahead and check for your plug. Make sure your plug's in your gun. You know, your gun can only hold 3 shells. Make sure you got the proper license. Get your hip card, and just make sure you're ready to go come opening day.
Well, I mean, all that's good information, and I know you, like I said, you provided me with a lot of good information today, and hopefully, you know, he's provided y'all with some. We're hoping that this video will help put a few extra birds in the freezer for you here in a few weeks, and later on during dove season. So everybody be safe out there, and hey, thanks for watching.